Okay, folks. As you can see, this is a new glider I got. I had some store credit on hobbyking.com, and I picked this baby up for, I think it was 113, something like that. It was on sale. Anyways, I've actually flown this before. My friend Randy, he had the same glider. He had the version 1. This is the version 2. Now, version 1, I believe the spinner was different. The I could pull off the cover, but I'll just explain it. The original spinner just had a grub screw that held it onto the shaft, and unless you had a flat spot that you filed, it had a tendency to actually fly off, which that's not a good idea. And it actually happened to us one time in flight and then another time on takeoff. I got video of both of those happening. But they fixed that. Now it's actually a nut on the front that's threaded onto I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically like a collar that goes over, and then as the nut squeezes the collar, it closes down onto the shaft on all sides. So now it's a lot better. Yeah, I haven't really heard anybody complain about it flying off, as long as you keep it tight. So anyway, I believe the motor's the same. They didn't mess with the motor. The ESC is the same. This is the ESC that was in it, and I'll explain why I had to pull it out. I put my own ESC in there. I put a 40 amp in there. But anyways, so the ESC should be the same. The motor's the same. And then they also added, I don't know if you can see it back there, they've added another spar that's actually a short leading edge spar. It only goes about right to here. And they have the original long spar that goes pretty far. Well, the spar itself only goes here, but the actual receiving portion of it goes pretty far on the wing. And then they also added this, I don't know if you can see that, that's a wheel under there, which is kind of nice, so you don't scrape up your belly there if you're on like pavement. I mean, it's probably better to land on grass, but just in case there's no grass around, you can land on pavement now, and it won't scrape up your fuselage. Okay, so anyways, I got a Spectrum 6-channel. It's a AR6600T. It has telemetry, which I've never actually used telemetry before. I have a Walkira Devo 10. There's other videos you can see, and I have a third-party software in there, and actually you can take telemetry, and it does read. I don't have the battery one hooked up yet. This for now, I just plug it into the balance port here, and it gives me the full amount of the total voltage of the whole battery there. So I haven't made this guy yet. I was having issues with the center of gravity, which I've read a lot of people are having trouble with that. Some people remove the wheel cover here, and that seemed to help people put the battery back further. Other people have used smaller batteries. I know Robert from Sylvania, he has this version 2, and he uses a 1000 4-cell battery, and I don't think he's used any other ballast or anything like that. Well, I actually used ballast in the back of the tail. I took the tail apart and I drilled it out and put my ballast in there. It's about 0.7 ounces, so about 19 grams, which really isn't a lot. I mean, the overall weight of this aircraft, I weighed it, pounds is like 3.2 pounds, which is around 1492. No, I'm sorry, 1462 grams. So yeah, there's a CG spot under here, and it actually has 2 holes. Now you'll see it's tail heavy right now because I don't have the canopy and the pilot in here. But if you put the pilot in here, like so, and the canopy, just like this, boom, and now you can't really see what I'm doing, but now you see it's perfectly balanced. I mean, it's like you really just rock your fingers back and forth, and it wants to teeter right there on that center of gravity. So I never measured the center of gravity, but there's on the bottom it says CG, and there's a little indentation on each side of the wing to put your fingers, or if you have a balancing tool, it'll be good. So I was gonna maiden it today, but it's raining outside, so yeah, I'm kind of bummed about that. But I will maiden it tomorrow. The wing is 100 inches. The box I think says 2540, so 2540 millimeters, which comes out to about 100 inches. So yeah, it's a good size wing. I glued my wingtips on with some epoxy. And oh, by the way, the 4-cell battery I'm using, I weighed it. It's I forgot how much it weighs now. Oh, this whole setup here, the canopy and the pilot housing weighs actually 3 ounces, which is surprising. I couldn't believe it was actually that much. But that's why if you're gonna do your center of gravity, make sure everything, camera, whatever you put on here, is good to go and intact, and everything you're gonna do. So it's very important. And just remember, if you're going to add weight in the back of the tail, you want to go as far back as you can, because the farther back you go from the CG, the less weight you have to add. So, I mean, 0.7 ounces compared to how much this plane weighs, it shouldn't really affect it. I mean, I've seen some other videos. I've seen another guy with, I think it was version 1 he had, which I don't remember how much version 1 weighs. It's probably pretty close to this. He had a 4,000 milliamp in there. I'm sure he was a bit nose heavy. And I don't think he even had his brake on. Anyways, I forgot to tell you, I wanted to talk about this ESC. Okay, now Robert from Sylvania, on his channel, he used the original ESC, which it does say 2 to 4 cell LiPo. It's a 30 amp. Okay. When I did put my 4-cell in there, which my 4-cell is actually a 75C, and I think he was using a 60C. So I don't know if it's because I was using a higher C rating or not. Yeah, I use Velcro too. I got rid of that strap. So this is actually a race drone battery, and it's a 1300 milliamp 4-cell, but it has 75C ratings. That's your discharge. Well, when I put this in here with the stock ESC and the motor, I couldn't go to full throttle. It would not let me go to full throttle. It would cut out very quickly. So I had to adjust my transmitter to 70% throttle only, and it would actually run like that. But I was like, okay, that's kind of crazy. Why the heck even use a 4-cell if you can't even bump it up? So I actually I didn't run it that long, but I smelled this ESC kind of getting hot, and I didn't like that. So I actually put a Predator. I had a Predator from the stock F15 I bought. A Predator 40. It's a 40 amp. I think it's the same 2 to 4 cell, 40 amp ESC, and I was actually able to go to 100%, which actually with this weight, it'll actually it has a 1-to-1 thrust ratio. It'll actually just sit there, you throttle up, and you can feel it kind of hovering vertically, which is nice to have that extra power. So, but the only thing that happened though is when I was throttling up like too rapidly on the stick, on the throttle, the motor would actually cut in and out. So I adjusted the ESC, and I added the brake, by the way, or I turned the brake on both of these. It's pretty simple to do. This one's pretty easy, and the other one I just looked up. It's an FMS ESC. I looked that up. So the brake is a must. You've got to turn the brake on, otherwise this plane will fly really slow. Anyways, so I was having issues, and it would cut out if I rapidly increased throttle. and I adjusted the ESC to a softer acceleration. That seemed to help it, but you know, if you're in a panic mode and you're not thinking and you go to throttle up, you can't hear the motor, what it's doing really when it's way up there. So you don't want it cutting in and out, and you might burn it up there, you never know. So I was like, that's not acceptable. So I fixed it by adjusting a delay. I put a 15% delay mix on my throttle, and you really can't tell when you gun the throttle. It delays, but it's like it's just as, and it just delays the whole curve. It's not like it just delays and then all of a sudden just follows. It delays the whole curve. So if you are at 0% and you jam it to 100, it's gonna do a 15% kind of like delay for the whole moment, and you really can't tell. I've tried it, and it doesn't cut out. It's great. And it's a feature that's actually on my transmitter with that third-party software. If you guys want, if I get comments, I definitely will show what software I'm using on my Devo 10 and everything. So, but that's pretty much it. I can't wait to maiden this guy. I'm gonna paint it too, but I want to wait till I maiden it. I got my CG just right. And I'll hook up my telemetry so I can see how much juice I have left in the battery when she finally cuts out, or if it doesn't cut out, I'll just keep track of where my battery voltage is when it's actually at 0. So anyways, thanks for watching and happy flying. And as you can see, my convergence is in the background. This thing belittles it, so catch you later. Happy flying.